Before we dive into today's story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us at Brave Animals for more incredible stories of courage and loyalty. Don't forget to like and comment to show your support. Max froze mid-stride, his nose twitching in the crisp autumn air. The bustling playground echoed with laughter, but for Max, a German Shepherd K9 with years of service, there was only the scent. A scent that sent a cold shiver down his spine. His handler, Officer Reed, called out casually, "Come on, Max, let's go." But Max wasn't moving. His eyes were locked on a single battered teddy bear lying in the grass, almost hidden behind the swings. It wasn't just a toy. Not to Max. His ears perked up and he took a cautious step forward, the faint rustle of leaves crunching beneath his paws. His body stiffened, his tail straight like an arrow. Something was off. Reed noticed the change immediately. Max never ignored a command unless he had a damn good reason. "Max?" "What is it, boy?" Max responded with a low growl, a sound that sent a chill down Reed's spine. It wasn't aggression. It was a warning. Reed followed Max's gaze. The teddy bear was old, dirt-streaked, one ear torn, and its stitched-on eyes staring lifelessly into the sky. Kids ran around chasing each other with popsicles and laughter, but that bear didn't belong. Reed crouched down, reaching for the toy. Max tensed, eyes darting around the playground like he expected someone, to jump out from the shadows. Reed's fingers barely brushed the fabric when Max barked sharply, startling nearby parents. A few moms glanced over, pulling their toddlers closer. Reed paused. Max's bark wasn't random. It was precise, focused. He wasn't just alerting. He was warning. Reed took a closer look at the bear. It was heavier than it should have been, oddly stiff. He turned it over slowly. That's when he heard it. A soft click. The sound was barely audible, but Max's ears twitched, his head tilting, slightly as if confirming what Reed's gut had already started to suspect. Reed's breath caught in his throat. "Max, you found something, didn't you?" Max didn't move. His eyes were locked on the bear, body tense as if ready to pounce. Reed's pulse quickened. He slowly opened the back of the bear's matted fur, revealing a small, hidden compartment inside. Nestled in the stuffing was a tiny black device, a voice recorder. Reed's hands trembled slightly as he clicked play. A man's voice crackled through the static, raspy and low, as if whispering in the dead of night. The words came out slow, deliberate, each syllable a dagger. "I told you to stop crying. You know what happens when you disobey me." Reed's stomach dropped. Max growled, a deep guttural sound that cut through the playground's noise like a siren. The kids kept playing, oblivious to the darkness hidden inside a child's toy. Reed glanced around, heart pounding. Who had left the bear here? And more importantly, where was the child? Max nudged the bear, sniffing furiously, tracing, the scent into the air like an invisible map. Reed's mind raced. Was it a prank, a sick joke, or something far worse? He looked down at Max, who stared back at him with a look that was almost human, as if pleading for him to understand the urgency. Reed felt the weight of the moment pressing down on his chest. This wasn't just a random object. It was a message. A cry for help left out in the open, waiting for the right eyes and the right nose to find it. And Max. He wasn't going to let it go. "Okay, boy, let's follow it. Let's find out who did this." Max barked once, short and sharp, before taking off toward the far end of the playground. Reed followed, adrenaline pumping, a million questions swirling in his head. The air seemed colder now. The laughter of the kids felt distant, almost eerie, as if they were playing on borrowed time. Somewhere nearby, a child was waiting. And Max wasn't going to stop until they found her. Max's paws hit the ground in a steady, determined rhythm, as he followed the invisible trail only he could sense. Reed jogged behind, heart racing, eyes darting across the playground as parents continued chatting, oblivious to the storm about to break. They crossed the mulch-covered area, past the swing swaying gently in the breeze and into a patch of grass where the noise of the playground began to fade. Max's nose stayed low, zigzagging across the ground like a bloodhound zeroing in on prey. Every few steps, his ears would twitch, his body tense like a coiled spring ready to launch. "Easy, Max," Reed muttered under his breath, more to calm himself than the dog. But Max wasn't slowing down. He had caught something. Reed could see it in the way Max's body moved, focused, intense, as if the world had narrowed to a single scent. They reached the edge of the park where the grass met the cracked sidewalk. Beyond that, an old chain-link fence lined the back of a row of aging townhouses. Max stopped at a broken section of the fence, sniffed furiously, then looked back at Reed with a sharp bark. His tail wagged, not with excitement but urgency. Reed's stomach tightened. Max had never been this intense unless they were on a real case, and this felt like a real case. Reed knelt, scanning the ground. A faint scuff mark in the dirt, maybe a shoe dragging. Next to it, a small plastic clip, the kind you'd find on a child's backpack, half buried in the mud. Max pawed at the fence and let out a low whine. Okay, boy. Let's check it out." Reed pushed through the gap in the fence, ignoring the scrape of metal against his uniform. Max darted forward, his nose pressed to the ground, weaving through the small backyard behind the townhouses. The area was quiet. Too quiet. Faint sounds of a TV playing drifted from a nearby window, but otherwise the street seemed deserted. A few Halloween decorations still clung to porches, plastic skeletons swaying, a faded ghost taped to a window. It was a scene straight out of suburban America, but something felt wrong. Reed's skin prickled. Max suddenly stopped in front of a narrow alley between two houses. The space was barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through, overgrown with weeds and littered with old soda cans and a broken tricycle. Max's ears flattened, his body low, muscles taut. Reed's voice was a whisper now, barely audible. "What is it, Max?" Max growled, low, steady like a warning. Reed's pulse hammered in his ears. He glanced at the alley, the darkness stretching deep between the buildings. He had a choice: call for backup or follow Max in. But Max didn't wait. He lunged forward, disappearing into the shadows. "Max!" Reed scrambled after him, the narrow walls closing in, branches scratching at his arms, the smell of damp leaves and old garbage filling his nose. Halfway through, Max stopped, nose pressed to the base of a weathered wooden fence. He let out a sharp bark, then a deep rumbling growl. Reed crouched beside him, shining his flashlight at the spot. That's when he saw it. A small patch of dirt, recently disturbed. The soil looked loose, darker than the surrounding ground. Someone had dug here. Reed's breath caught. He reached out, brushing away the top layer of dirt. His fingers hit something soft, fabric. He pulled gently and a small pink jacket emerged, dirt-stained and crumpled with a name tag barely legible. Emily. Reed's mind raced. A kid's jacket. A name. And that bear. Max barked again, turning in tight circles, his nose too. The ground. "Wait, Max, hold on." Reed grabbed the radio on his shoulder. "Dispatch, this is Officer Reed. I need backup at 45th and Maple. Possible evidence related to child endangerment. Requesting immediate assistance." The static crackled. Then a voice replied, calm and routine. "Copy that, Officer Reed. Units en route." Reed exhaled sharply, adrenaline surging. Max wasn't done. He bolted further down the alley, tail high, eyes sharp. Reed followed, heart pounding in his chest like a drum. They reached a back porch, peeling paint, rusted steps, an old welcome mat that read, "Home Sweet Home" in faded letters. Max stopped at the door, sniffed once, then looked up at Reed as if waiting for him to act. Reed's hand hovered over the doorknob. It wasn't locked. His breath was shallow, each second stretching like an eternity. He pushed the door open slowly. The smell hit him first. Stale air, a faint chemical scent mixed with something sour. The room was dim, curtains drawn tight. The only light a flickering TV in the corner playing a rerun of an old sitcom. Laugh track echoing like a cruel joke in the silence. Max stepped in cautiously, every muscle taut, his gaze sweeping the room. Reed followed, his hand resting on the grip of his holstered weapon, a couch covered in a thin layer of dust, a pile of newspapers stacked haphazardly on a coffee table, and then the toys, dozens of them arranged in neat rows along the wall, bears, dolls, trucks, some worn, some new, each one with a small tag, like trophies. Reed's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a random collection, this was a pattern. Max growled, deep and menacing, his gaze locked on a closed door at the far end of the room. Reed's breath caught in his throat. He knew what was behind that door, or at least, he thought he did. Reed could feel his heart hammering in his chest as he stared at the closed door. The house was too quiet, the stillness almost suffocating. Max stood rigid, every muscle tensed, his tail straight like a flagpole, his ears flicked forward, and his nose twitched as if the air itself was whispering something only he could hear. Reed took a steadying breath and glanced around the room. The toys, the TV playing a canned laugh track, the faint smell of something stale. It all painted a picture Reed wasn't ready to accept. Max growled low, deep in his throat, his gaze locked on the door. Reed knew that growl. It wasn't just alert, it was a warning, a signal that something bad was on the other side. He crept forward, hand hovering over his holstered gun, the weight of his badge suddenly feeling heavier than ever. His boots creaked against the warped wooden floor as he approached. Max didn't move, waiting for Reed to act. The doorknob was cold in Reed's hand, slick with dust and the sweat from his own palms. He swallowed hard, listening for any sign of movement. Nothing. Just the muffled sound of the TV, the ticking of an old wall clock, and Max's steady, controlled breaths. He twisted the knob slowly, the latch clicking louder than it should have. In the silence, the door creaked open a few inches, revealing a sliver of darkness. The air inside was colder, heavier like a tomb. Max surged forward, pushing the door wider, his body moving low and controlled, his paws barely making a sound on the floor. Reed followed, pulse racing. The smell hit him first, stale sweat, a hint of bleach, something metallic. His eyes adjusted to the dim light, taking in the details of the room. A small bed in the corner, sheets rumpled and stained. A wooden chair pushed up against the wall, its legs uneven. A table with a single lamp, its bulb flickering weakly, casting long, thin shadows that seemed to dance on the walls. And then Reed saw it, a row of stuffed animals, lined up neatly on a shelf. Bears, bunnies, a small elephant. Each had a tag handwritten in sloppy, uneven letters. Names: Samantha, Emma, Lily, Emily. His stomach twisted into a knot, the same name on the jacket outside. Max's nose twitched furiously, his gaze darting to the corner of the room where a small, faded curtain hung from the ceiling, partially concealing something behind it. Reed's breath caught. He approached slowly, every nerve in his body screaming. Max let out a short, sharp bark, the sound slicing through the air like a blade. Reed reached out, grabbing the edge of the curtain. His hand trembled as he pulled it back. Behind it, a small closet space, empty, or so it seemed. Max barked again, more insistent this time, and started pawing at the floor. Reed crouched, shining his flashlight. That's when he saw the edges of a loose floorboard, just barely misaligned. He pried it up with his fingers, the wood creaking as it gave way. Beneath, a hollow space. A soft sound, barely a whimper, rose from the darkness. Reed's heart stopped. Max whined, his tail wagging tentatively now as if encouraging Reed to keep going. He reached down carefully, feeling around in the small space. His hand brushed against something warm, a small, trembling hand. "Hey, it's okay. I'm here to help you." Slowly, he lifted a little girl out of the hole. She couldn't have been more than 6, her hair tangled, her face pale and streaked with tears. She clutched a tiny, worn bunny in her arms like a lifeline, her eyes wide and glassy, locked onto Reed's, a mix of fear and hope swimming in their depths. Max sat beside them, tail thumping softly against the floor. Reed's voice cracked, barely holding it together. "You're safe now. We've got you." The girl didn't speak. She just buried her face in the bunny and sobbed quietly. Reed cradled her gently, feeling the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders like a heavy blanket. But the questions churned in his mind. Who had put her there? Why? And what the hell was the story behind the recorder and the bear? He radioed for EMS and backup, voice tight but controlled. Max stayed close, still alert, still watching the shadows as if they might shift at any moment. And Reed knew this wasn't over, not even close. The flashing red and blue lights painted the street in chaotic colors, cutting through the dark like a warning. Reed stood on the cracked sidewalk, watching as paramedics gently placed the little girl into the back of the ambulance. Her tiny frame was wrapped in a blanket, her bunny clutched so tightly that Reed thought her fingers might snap. Max sat at his side, eyes focused, ears perked, as if still waiting for the next piece of the puzzle to reveal itself. Neighbors had started gathering, peeking out from windows, standing on porches in slippers, arms crossed tightly against the night's chill. Whispers floated through the air. "What's going on over there? Did they find a kid? Is she okay?" Reed barely heard them. His mind was racing. The bear, the recording, the names on the tags, Emily's jacket buried in the dirt, and now, this little girl. "Officer Reed," a voice called. It was Detective Sarah Collins, a no-nonsense veteran in plain clothes, her hair tied back in a messy ponytail. She approached with a clipboard in hand, her expression tight. "What do we have?" she asked, her tone clipped but not unkind. Reed filled her in, finding the bear, the recorder, the girl hidden under the floor. He kept it factual, but the weight in his voice was hard to miss. Sarah's brows furrowed, and she glanced at the house, then back at the ambulance. "Any ID on the kid?" Reed shook his head. "No idea. She hasn't said a word, just holding on to that bunny like it's her whole world." Sarah scribbled a note, then looked at Max. The dog sat perfectly still, eyes locked on the house as if he knew the job wasn't done yet. "He's a good one," she muttered. Reed nodded. "Yeah, he knew something was off from the start. That bear, it wasn't just trash." Max's ears flicked, and he let out a low, almost imperceptible whine. Reed turned to follow his gaze, back to the house, specifically the window above the porch. The curtain moved slightly like a breath in the dark. Reed's pulse jumped. "Hold up," he said quickly, motioning to Sarah. "Did anyone clear the upstairs?" Sarah blinked, caught off guard. "I thought you said it was empty." "I thought it was," Reed muttered. Max let out a sharp bark, standing up, his tail stiff. Reed trusted that signal more than anything. Without a word, he started toward the house again, Max close behind. Sarah followed, pulling her badge from her jacket and flipping it open. Reed climbed the porch steps, the boards creaking under his weight. He pushed the door open, heart thudding. The living room was the same as before, creepy, too quiet, the TV still playing in the corner, casting long shadows across the floor. Max moved ahead, nose to the ground, weaving between the furniture, with laser focus. Reed's breath tightened in his chest as he followed, eyes scanning the room for anything out of place. They reached the stairs. Max paused, sniffing, his tail twitching. Reed felt the tension rise like a current. He motioned for Sarah to stay behind, but she shook her head, stepping forward. "I'm not staying out here," she said quietly. They crept up the stairs, each step groaning under their weight. The upstairs hallway smelled musty like old wood and dust. There were 3 doors, 2 closed, 1 slightly ajar. Max stopped in front of the first door, the closed one. His body went rigid, ears forward, nose working overtime. Reed took a breath, drew his weapon and slowly turned the knob. The door swung open into a small bedroom, cluttered but empty. A mattress on the floor, piles of dirty clothes, an open closet with wire hangers swaying slightly. Nothing that screamed immediate danger, but Max wasn't moving. He stood still, staring at the floor near the bed. Reed followed his gaze, and that's when he noticed it. Scratches. Faint. But there. Long, thin scratch marks on the wood floor, like someone had dragged something heavy across it. Or someone. Max let out a sharp, sudden bark and lunged toward the bed, sniffing furiously at the mattress's edge. Reed crouched down, running his fingers along the scratches. They led to the far wall where the paint looked slightly different. Faded, like it had been touched or cleaned. He knocked gently, listening for hollow spots. The third knock sounded different. A hollow thud. Sarah's eyes widened. "Is that a hidden space?" Reed finished, adrenaline spiking. Max barked again, pawing at the wall. Reed stepped back, heart racing, and threw his shoulder into it. The wall gave way with a loud crack, splintering open to reveal a small crawl space, barely big enough for a person to squeeze inside. And there, curled in the shadows, was a man. Mid-40s. Greasy hair slicked back, wearing a sweat-stained t-shirt. His eyes were wide, wild, darting around like a cornered animal. In his hands, clutched tight against his chest, was a small stuffed bear, similar to the one Max had found at the park. "Don't move," Reed barked, weapon drawn. The man didn't listen. He started muttering, rocking back and forth, clutching the bear tighter. His voice was soft, barely a whisper, but Reed caught the words. "They don't listen. They never listen. Gotta make them listen." Sarah stepped forward, her voice firm. "Sir, step out of the space slowly. Let go of the bear." The man's eyes snapped up, rage flickering across his face. His hands tightened around the bear like it was the only thing keeping him alive. Reed's finger hovered near the trigger, but something about the man's eyes, wild, desperate, broken, made him pause. Max stood frozen, a low growl in his throat, and in that moment Reed realized this wasn't just about one little girl. This went deeper, much deeper. The man sat on the floor, rocking back and forth, clutching the bear like a lifeline. His breath came in ragged bursts, eyes darting from Reed to Sarah and back again. Max stood rigid, muscles taut, a low growl vibrating in his chest. Reed's voice was steady but firm, his badge glinting in the dim light. "Put the bear down, let's talk." The man shook his head wildly, his voice hoarse, almost a whisper. "They don't listen. They never listen." Sarah took a cautious step forward, her tone calm but edged with urgency. "Who doesn't listen? Who are you talking about?" The man's eyes snapped to hers, wide and unblinking. "The kids. They cry and scream. I told them to stop. I told them." Reed's stomach twisted. The pieces were clicking into place, but the full picture still hovered just out of reach. He crouched down slowly, careful to keep his weapon lowered but ready. Max inched forward, nose twitching, his gaze locked on the man's face. "Look, man, you don't have to do this," Reed said quietly. "What's your name?" The man blinked as if the question startled him. His lips trembled. It's Martin. Martin Deeks." Reed's heart skipped. The name sounded familiar. He shot a glance at Sarah, who had already started flipping through her notepad. Martin's hands twitched around the bear, fingers digging into the fabric. Reed noticed a faint stain on the bear's fur, something dark, almost rust-colored. His breath caught. "Blood?" "Martin, listen to me," Reed said, his voice low and controlled. "You're not safe here. That little girl we found was her. Name Emily." Martin's gaze snapped up, his pupils dilated. His whole body shuddered like a puppet on a string. "Emily. She wouldn't stop crying. I had to make her listen." Reed's chest tightened. Max's growl deepened, a warning, vibrating through the air. Sarah's voice was a sharp whisper. "Reed, this guy. He matches the description from the missing persons bulletin last week. A teacher. Fired for questionable behavior." Reed's pulse spiked. A teacher. He shifted his weight, keeping his tone even. "Martin, tell me, what happened with Emily?" Martin shook his head, his breathing ragged. She wouldn't stop. I told her to stop. They all have to learn, like the others. The words hung in the air like poison. Reed felt the floor tilt under his feet. Max barked sharply, snapping Reed back into focus. The dog lunged forward, pawing at the bear in Martin's hands. Martin yelped, pulling the bear closer to his chest. But the pressure caused a faint metallic click to echo through the room. Reed's eyes widened. That sound, the same sound from the first bear. "Stop, don't move," Reed barked, adrenaline spiking. Sarah's hand flew to her radio. "We need bomb squad backup. Possible device on scene." Martin froze, eyes wild. He stared down at the bear like he was seeing it for the first time. His lips trembled and a tear traced down his cheek. I didn't know," he stammered, rocking faster. Reed's mind raced. If the bear was rigged, any sudden movement could trigger it. "Okay, Martin, listen to me," Reed said, his voice low and steady. "We're going to help you, but you have to stay very still. Don't squeeze the bear, don't drop it, just hold it carefully." Martin whimpered, nodding slowly. Max inched closer, eyes locked on the bear, every muscle in his body like a coiled spring. Reed could feel the weight of the moment crushing down on him. One wrong move. Outside, sirens wailed as the bomb squad approached, the sound growing louder. Closer. Like a ticking clock, Sarah's radio crackled. "Bomb squad ETA 2 minutes." Reed's grip on his weapon tightened. He glanced at Sarah, their eyes locking for a split second. She nodded. They were out of time. Max barked once, short and sharp, snapping Reed's focus back. The dog's eyes were fixed on the bear's seams, the same spot where Reed had found the recorder in the first toy. Reed's mind flashed through the possibilities. If Martin had no idea what he was holding, if someone had planted it, then who and why? Reed took a slow breath, his voice calm but firm. "Martin, do you remember where you got that bear?" Martin blinked, his breath shuddering. It was left for me, in the classroom. A gift, I thought. They said it was for the kids." His voice cracked and Reed's blood ran cold. Someone was planting these bears. Someone was orchestrating this. And Martin? He was just a pawn in something much bigger. Max's growl deepened, a sound that vibrated in Reed's bones. The dog's gaze darted to the window, then back to the bear, then the window again. Reed's eyes followed, a shadow, just for a second. A flicker of movement across the street. Reed's heart stopped. Someone was watching. The street outside buzzed with tension. The flashing lights from the bomb squad trucks reflected in the windows, and the low hum of radios and distant sirens filled the air like a warning no one could ignore. Reed stood frozen for a split second, heart racing, eyes locked on the shadow that had moved across the street, whoever it was they were watching. Max barked sharply, snapping Reed back to the room. The sound jolted Martin, who whimpered and clutched the bear tighter. The metallic click echoed again, small but unmistakable. The device inside was real, and it was live. "Martin, listen to me." Reed's voice was sharp, controlled, his years of training keeping the panic at bay. "You have to stay very still. You're holding something dangerous. We need to help you, but you have to trust me." Martin shook his head, tears streaming down his face, rocking like a child caught in a nightmare. His words came out in a frantic whisper. I didn't know. Max let out a low growl, his eyes darting toward the window again. Reed's mind raced. Whoever left the bear in Martin's classroom was still out there, watching, waiting. Sarah stepped back, pressing her radio tight against her ear. "Bomb squad is here. They're setting up." Her voice was tense but focused, eyes never leaving. The man holding the bear. A heavy thud outside signaled the arrival of the squad. Reed knew they were running out of time. He crouched slightly, his tone calm but firm, the voice of someone who had been here before, someone who had seen how quickly a situation like this could turn fatal. "Martin, look at me. Please. Look at me." Martin's breathing slowed, just enough to meet Reed's gaze, his wide, tear-filled eyes locked onto the officer. "You didn't know, Martin. You didn't mean for this to happen. But you have to stay calm. We're going to get through this. Together. Max inched forward, slow and careful, sniffing the air around the bear. Reed saw the dog's nose twitch, his muscles taut but controlled. Max was reading the room in a way no human could. Reed's earpiece crackled. "Officer Reed, this is the bomb unit. We're set. Do not attempt to disarm. Step away from the suspect." Reed exhaled a slow, steady breath. "Negative. The suspect is holding the device. If we spook him, it's over. Let me keep him calm." Silence followed. Then a soft reply. "Copy that. We'll stand by." Reed refocused on Martin. "Okay. Buddy, let's take this one step at a time. Can you tell me where you got the bear?" Martin's voice cracked. "It was, a man. At the school. He left a box outside my door. Said it was a gift. For the class. I didn't know." Reed's pulse spiked. Someone was planting these bears, using people like Martin to carry them out. This was bigger than just a single case. Max barked once, sharp and deliberate, as if confirming Reed's worst fear. Sarah whispered urgently, "We've got eyes on a male subject across the street, possibly our suspect. He's moving." Reed's mind raced. The man across the street, the shadow, the one who was watching. He looked at Martin, still rocking, still lost in the chaos of his own mind. Reed had to keep him steady until the bomb squad could act. "Martin, you're not alone in this. We're going to get you out safely, okay? Just keep your hands loose. Don't squeeze the bear. Can you do that?" Martin nodded barely, his breath hitching. Outside, the bomb squad prepared to breach. Inside, time seemed to slow. Max stayed still, his gaze locked on Martin like a laser, ready to act if anything went wrong. Reed crouched lower, speaking gently, steadily. "Martin, think about Emily, think about the kids. They need you to stay calm. Can you do that for them?" Martin let out a sob, his body trembling. He nodded again, slower this time. Reed saw the opportunity. He motioned to the bomb, Tex outside signaling with his fingers. 3, 2. Max's ears flicked. The dog's body shifted ever so slightly like a spring ready to release. 1. The bomb squad moved in, a blur of precision and focus. They approached Martin carefully, working quickly to secure the bear. Reed's breath caught in his throat as he watched. Max growled low but didn't move. He trusted the team just as Reed did. After what felt like an eternity, the lead technician gave a thumbs up. "Device secured. We're good." The air seemed to release all at once. Reed exhaled, a wave of relief washing over him. Martin collapsed forward, sobbing into his hands, the bear finally taken from his grasp. Reed sat back on his heels, wiping the sweat from his brow. He looked at Max, who wagged his tail slowly, his eyes still sharp, still watching. Sarah's voice was soft now, her adrenaline fading. "Reed, that guy across the street, he's gone." Reed's chest tightened. He knew they weren't done. The person who planted the bears was still out there. The danger wasn't over, but for now a child was safe. Martin was alive, and Max had once again proved what a dog's instincts could uncover when the world wasn't paying attention. As Reed stood outside the house, watching the ambulance lights fade into the distance, he thought about how easily small details could be missed. A forgotten bear in a playground, a man in a classroom, a child's name stitched into fabric. How many times had the signs been there, and no one noticed? How many other cries for help were waiting, hidden in plain sight? He looked down at Max, who nudged his hand with a soft, knowing gaze. Sometimes the smallest things hold the biggest secrets, and sometimes it takes a dog's nose to remind us that no sound of pain should ever be ignored. What would you have done if you were in Reed's place? Do you think we always notice the cries for help around us, or do we sometimes look away too quickly? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.